Hello my friends, that's me, Robbie from BestEnglishFiction.com, and I'm a keen English reader, and lately I finished reading the Gone series. And I have to tell you my friends, it's one of the greatest dystopian fiction series I've ever read in my life. Not that I would have read loads of dystopian fiction, but I've read enough, to judge this particular book series accordingly, by those dystopian standards. And I have to tell you, it's brilliant. It's written by an American author, Michael Grant, and there's 6 books in the series. Gone, which is the first book, where you get to know how the whole thing begins. Basically, the storyline is quite simple. They all live in a small Californian coastal town called Perdido Beach. If I'm not mistaken, that's how it's pronounced, Perdido or Perdido, whatever, And then all of a sudden, one fine day, the adults just disappear, and the whole town of Perdido Beach is sealed off. Is basically covered by a massive dome, and there's no way out of there, And all the children are actually forced to start fending for themselves. And basically they start running their small little society. There's about 300 kids or so, and some of them have developed mutant powers. It gets very exciting, but it's not so much about those actual powers and all the action, even though it adds that element of excitement to the whole thing, but it's more about how the characters reveal themselves through that action, and how relationships develop, and all that sort of thing. It's very, very interesting, and those characters will definitely grow on you. They grew on me, that's for sure, because after finishing all these books, I'm actually finding myself at loose ends. It's as if something's been taken away from me all of a sudden, They became like my family members. Seriously. It's heartbreaking, That's the first book, Gone, obviously. The second one is Hunger, and they're actually named by the prevalent theme in each book. Hunger, well, Gone, that's when kids realize, obviously, that the adults are gone. They're not there anymore, and they have to start running their own society however they can, right? And then leaders emerge, and there's intrigues, and all sorts of different interesting things going on, right? And the hunger, obviously, is the main theme of the second book, because they run out of food, and they have to figure out how to feed themselves. And then some guys figure out how to... Actually, one guy is a friend of the main character called Quinn. Sam is the main character, and Quinn is his friend. And Quinn figures out how to start fishing. He's basically becoming a fisherman, and later on, he's going to have his own fleet. And he'll become one of the main providers of the children, because he'll know how to catch fish, and fish is going to become a very, very irreplaceable, what's the word for it, I forgot, not staple, but commodity in their communities, And that's the main theme of the second book. Children are so hungry that actually some of them resort to the very last resort, cannibalism, which is terrible, shocking, but that's what happens, right? And the third book is Lies. To be fair, I actually forgot why Lies, because there was so much intrigues and everything. Who was lying to who? I'm not really sure, because all these books it all blends together, and you can't really remember what exactly went on in which book. And the next one was... After Lies was Plague, right? When a terrible plague decimated the society of theirs, There's all sorts of different monsters and different creatures. And what happened in Plague, I suppose I wouldn't be revealing too much if I told you that you would actually have bugs growing inside of you. And then they would hatch out pretty much like in film Aliens, right? With the exception that there was not one monster inside of you, but multiple monsters, many of them, then be actually eating you from the inside out, eating you alive, and all sorts of terrible things happening. And then, last but one book is Fear, And why fear? For Christ's sakes. I can't remember, to be fair. Why fear? Why fear? There was something about fear. I'm terrible at it, you know what I mean? But I suppose everyone's the same. If you have to watch, say, for instance, 10 movies in a row, and then someone will ask you what exactly happened in the third and the fifth movie, right? You will probably forget it, you know? But obviously, if I would start flipping through the pages, I would. Oh, yes, that's what it's all about, yeah. Fear, how we deal with fear, because the friend of the main character, Astrid, right? She's terribly afraid of a monster boy called Drake, you know? And Drake's a mutant. He has a whip, like a massive giant tentacle, like a whip, instead of his arm, because he lost his arm in one of the first books of the series, right? And then there's this thing called Gaiaphage. At least that's how I pronounce the word in my head, you know? I'm not really sure what the correct pronunciation is, but it's just a made-up word meaning that there's a monster living underneath the ground, you know, 10 miles deep or something in a cave, and he's been feeding on radioactive substances leaking from the nuclear power plant, right? And it's some sort of an alien, you know. He traveled to the Earth on a meteorite, and when it struck the power plant, it killed a person. And that alien's DNA mixed with, basically blended with the human DNA. And that monster had been growing deep down in the earth, you know, 10 miles below the nuclear power plant. And it's been growing there, and that's where all the evil originates, you know. It's very interesting, it's very fascinating, very captivating fiction, and basically that monster has supernatural powers, and it made that monster boy Drake by taking the ordinary boy and giving him the whip arms, the long tentacle, and that boy is pure evil, you know. He likes torturing people because he has some issues because of his childhood, you know. His father used to beat up his mother, or was it his stepfather or something like that, you know. And then he's after the girl Astrid, and she's terribly afraid of him, you know, and the fear is the reigning motive of this book, you know. And then light, that's when the children are saved, you know. And I'm not going to reveal any more information about it, but I just have to tell you, if you read these books in the Gone series, all those characters will become pretty much like family members to you. That's how I was feeling, and now I'm at loose ends. And I have to get over it, I suppose. It'll take me a couple days, probably a week or so, to stop thinking about them characters in the books, you know. But then again, I'm doing the 50 American Phrase Acquisition mission, and for as long as I'm involved in that mission, I won't forget these characters, because that's where I got all the American phrases from. The writer, Michael Grant, has done a great job, because he's written actually all this fiction in a very easy to understand language. It's full with slang, expressions, easy phrases, you know, just like kids would use in real life, you know. And this is, by the way, young adult fiction. There's a specific description for it. YA, young adult, you know. And I would probably be considered too old by some, right? But this is perfect fiction. And considering I'm a foreigner, right? Well, it's got nothing, to be fair, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm a foreigner. Anybody can read this fiction. It's not that it'd be easier to read, and that's the only reason why I read it. I read it because I find it really, really interesting. That's my thing now, you know. I got a thing for dystopian fiction. That's what I'm doing. I'm reading dystopian fiction, and it just happens to be young adult fiction, because my daughter introduced me to dystopian fiction. She's big into it, and it's my thing now as well. And yep, Michael Grant, Gone. Look into it if you're looking for easy to read English fiction, friendly language, real life American language, expressions, and all that kind of stuff. And you may as well just follow my 50 American Phrase Acquisition mission. and I'm posting regular videos on my EasyIdioms.com website and on my AccentRenchu.com blog. So you're welcome to follow me, and who knows, maybe you'll start reading these books and then you'll feel exactly how I feel currently at loose ends when you finish these books, because those characters are exactly just like your family members. You know, you can relate to them in so many ways, and if you want all that experience, I definitely suggest you read the Gone series. Thanks, my friends, and bye-bye.